Okay.
And there we are.
I think we're live, folks. Good evening, everyone out there in YouTube land. Welcome once again to another edition of Friday Night Live here with the Page crew. My name is Phil. I'll kind of be running the show here a little bit this evening. And like always, I am joined with my co-hosts here. And Jen Cash is with us from the Blind Bar. Jen, how are you this evening?
I am wonderful. How are you,
Not
Phil?
bad. It's a Friday, and the weekend is upon us. So what better way to start it off than hanging out and talking about the convention and talking about role-playing games. So I'm doing great. So
I agree. And I'm so excited for this stream. We've got a lot of special
we
guests
do.
today and a lot of fun things to
Like
talk
always, you know it. Also this evening, we've got Ed Stark. Ed, our special guest coordinator. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Tired. Had a long couple of weeks, but and I'm going to have a pretty busy weekend. But looking forward to the stream as well. Yeah, I love the fact that we're bringing on guests every week. It makes it very fresh.
Indeed it does. And finally, we have our good friend Ron Meischker, our organizer. Ron, what's going on?
Oh,
Can
not
Ron
much,
not
Phil.
hear us? Oh, there he is.
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay.
You
Just
know,
very
exciting. I'm not sure why, but maybe some technical difficulties. But hey, really great show tonight, and I'm excited to get our guests on.
You know it. So let's remind everybody tonight that, like we did the last week show, we are also going to give away some things this evening. We've got 2 gift certificates on the line. One, we've got a $25 gift certificate for Frog God Games online store. And we also additionally have another $25 gift certificate for Troll Lord Games online store. If you are chosen on the stream this evening, what I need you to do, winners, is get me your preferred email address, and then I will make sure that the folks over at Troll Lord and Frog God get your email address, and then you can sort that out with them. So again, we'll make sure that is handled as we go through the show.
Phil, how do they get you their email address?
That is a great question. You can hit me up at Phil at phillygamingexpo.com. So thanks, because that would have been a good piece of information to share.
So Phil, just a little correction. We have 2 $25 gift certificates from Frog God Games and 2 $25 gift certificates from Troll Lord Games.
So that means we've got 4 potential lucky winners this evening.
That's correct.
Fantastic. I'm going to just jot down that on my little sheet here and make sure that I get those names. All right. Okay. Well, folks, like we spoke earlier, right when we came on, we do have 2 special guests this evening that are going to be joining us. We're going to have a chat with them. And so, firstly, we would like Mr. John Harford to join us. So let's bring John on if we have him. He's in our green room. We're about to have John pop on with and join us.
He's back there somewhere. He's I can see him on screen. He's scrounging for some food in the green room.
Oh goodness! All right.
Oh my gosh!
The Cheetos bowl.
No, he's looking for Critical Hit Cookies, our GM and Special Guest Lounge sponsor. But
Oh,
There
you caught me.
There he is.
there he is.
How
Hand
you
in the cookie
doing?
jar. Hey, John, how are you this evening?
I'm
Thank you
doing
for
all
joining us.
right. Doing all right. Hello to, I saw Jessica Rabbit, who is Ariel, who's with me at Page at the booth. I saw Lisanne pop in, and hi to everybody else who's out there. Great to see everybody. Hi, Jen, Ed, Phil, Ron. Yeah,
Hey,
I'm doing all
John, how
right.
are you?
Winding
Good.
down a crazy week, as you could imagine. So between
Yeah,
finals,
congrats on the
between
Kickstarter.
finals starting and the Kickstarter, it's been a bit of a nutty week here in my world, but that's all right. It's a good nutty for.
I watched
Oh,
your
great! Yeah, I
stream
saw
Wednesday.
you
You
pop
guys
on.
were
Yeah,
awesome.
it was good. It went by so fast. It was much like this stream. I was just glad everything worked when I got on. I was like,
Well, John, thanks so much for joining us
No, thank
here.
you.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're all about.
Yeah.
You are the founder of Fox and Boar Games.
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit about Fox and Boar. And then as we continue through the conversation, we do want to talk about that Kickstarter that was just mentioned by Jen a few short moments ago. So let's talk about what Fox and Boar is all about.
So Fox and Board Games is a publishing company that I started. I incorporated it about 2 years ago. Before that, I was kind of using it as just a general marketing opinion for myself. So it all started that, and Ron, I've known Ron many years. He knows I've always wanted to write and put my own games out. And I think one thing Lisanne said when she shut up Page was, "This is what you've always wanted to do," So it was about 2 years ago. I teach, part of what I teach is in the game design department at Raritan Valley Community College. And I teach the systems and the narrative and concept class, non-digital. This is all analog stuff. Though I have a lot of digital students I also work with. But I took a sabbatical about 2 years ago to work on Tales of the Harrowed Land, which is kind of my ongoing flagship game. That's my own system and setting. I've run it at Page. I've run it several adventures at Page. That is, I have a primer out for it. And the primer was the result of a year sabbatical because this is a game that's rooted very much in our own ancient world. I call it kind of a Bronze Age level of technology in our old Fertile Crescent, mixed with a lot of Michael Moorcock and Robert E. Howard. That's how I kind of position the game. So it was at the end of that I decided, well, I can just publish this as John Harford, or I could actually make an LLC out of this and distribute stuff that way. And it kind of just got out of hand from there, because shortly thereafter I had a couple friends pitch things to me. Some of them were just short adventures that are available on our drive-through RPG. So drive-through RPG, Fox and Board Games. And then I decided at the end of the sabbatical, I decided I was so tired of reading about our own ancient history and dark occultism and dark fantasy that I decided to write a game about raccoons, which became Trash Sexy, which is our single biggest hit. Our biggest hit are these stupid raccoons, the ridiculous raunchy raccoon mayhem that ensues in the Trash Sexy role-playing game. Since then, we've published a number of things: 2 Call of Cthulhu adventures this year through Miskatonic Repository, but I wrote those. We have the Blight Realms Primer, which is another collaborative game system that I worked on with a friend. That's just a short primer. Journey's Deck, which is also very popular, which was a long-term project that was released at Page, debuted at Page. And so Shadow West was born at Page. Quite honestly, I was playing Shadow Dark with James Rack and a couple of Dan Sandin, a couple of the folks that I've known from other cons and from Page. And it was towards like the end. There's Dan Deegan. Hey, there's Dan. And I said to somebody at the table, I was like, man, wouldn't you like to play like Boot Hill and Shadow Dark or something like that? And everybody was like, oh, that would be a great thing. This kind of like really lo-fi Western with all the horror elements. And I had actually become kind of known for running Down Darker Trails. And hopefully some Down Darker Trail stuff will also be published. And I did also, we got Christian, played the Page 1. That's right, I remember Christian. So good to see you. And So I ended up at Necronomicon up in Providence this past summer. I ended up being a symposium speaker on incorporating the mythos into non-literate societies, basically. And one of those non-literate societies that I did a lot of research on was how to take the Cthulhu mythos and put them into the Old West out of the context of the traditional mythos, out of the forbidden books, out of the New England libraries. And how do you incorporate this kind of methodology and folklore? So that started feeding into Shadow West, which is what I'm currently working on and which just got kickstarted. What was really funny is that I got a text from a friend, from Tom Toynton, who also co-wrote Blight Realms with me. He actually wrote most of Blight Realms. I supply the lore. He wrote everything else. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, so, it looks like your Book of Shadows for Shadow Dark is selling pretty well at Page." He said, "When are you putting out more Shadow Dark stuff?" I'm like, "I'm not putting out any more Shadow Dark stuff. I want to work on my own stuff now." By the end of the weekend, I decided I was going to start exploring this Old West Shadow Dark game. And that's how it all came from. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really interesting thing. I mean, a lot of us have been in the hobby for decades, and then later on in our lives or in our careers, we decide to maybe fulfill a bit of a childhood dream, and do some self-publishing or what have you. It sounds like you're living that dream, seeing that Fox and Boars, like you said, has just been incorporated just 2 short years ago. So that's really exciting stuff. So like you said, you've got a Kickstarter right now. It's called Shadow West. It is fully funded.
In 22 minutes, I was blown away. I got up to get a drink. I was watching it tick up. I was like, "Oh, cool!" And I got up to get a drink, and I came back. I sat down. I looked again, and I got a text from a friend like, "You're funded." I'm like, "Man, crazy!" So we hit our first stretch goal the first night, 2,500, and that was some extra. That was the GM screen, to do the GM screen, which I'd eventually do anyway. But it was nice getting it as a stretch goal. So
yeah. That's great. Actually, Ron, do you have access to throw the Kickstarter into the chat for our viewers in case they want to check it out here? I think that'd be useful to check it out. Well, so go ahead, Ed.
Actually, while Ron is doing that, I have to jump back into a page thing. I mean, thankfully, Fox and Boar is going to be at page 3 again.
We are going to be there.
But you were just mentioning a really cool idea, really cool seminar or panel that you ran, all these great games that you've got. Yeah. Have you been submitting any events yet? Are you going to submit some events for us first?
Well, I've got a Shadow Dark game in the queue, and I've got 2 Trash Sexy games in the queue. Awesome. Now, I am primarily running the booth too, so I'm trying not to overload on games, as I think I mentioned to Ron. Maybe to you as well. I forget who was in the conversation. But I am going to be running Shadow West. I think we said that was the 8 o'clock Friday night or Saturday night game. I forget which one I submitted. I might, if that sells out right away, I might add another section, maybe Sunday afternoon or something.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask is, especially because you're going to be running a booth and we don't want to, overload your time and everything. Have you considered soliciting like the Discord channel or the page, Facebook page? I'm sure you have a bunch of fans. Maybe some of them who are going to Page, maybe they could run a game or 2 of your stuff. Doesn't have to be sponsored or anything. It could just be. Yeah,
no, I'd be thrilled. And I haven't done those shouting out yet. I'm honestly still kind of wrapping my head around how quickly it's all moved. So, I'm kind of getting a hint. So Ari, who is on as Jessica Rabbit, will be there. Mm-hmm. And she is at Dex Light going to be running some Journeys deck demos and possibly some Trash Sexy. She did some Trash Sexy at Epicon. So she's getting much more versed in some of our games and practicing them with some of her friends. So she'll be running some stuff for us, and maybe we can add another section of something with her running it. And I would actually be fine with that. I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, I would encourage a lot of our. People who've been to Page already, kind of know the ropes. Maybe they're not ready to volunteer yet, although they'd be more than.
That's a great suggestion.
I'd love it if they would submit some games, and we could keep things coordinated with you and everything like that.
And I'll admit, I'm really slack. I really slack on Discord. I don't spend a lot of time on it.
We're kind of getting up and running on Discord, but we have a very active Facebook community.
Yeah, and I'm active there, right. So I'll put a shout out there over the next few days, week or so, just to get my. That's a great idea, and that's why it's good to talk to people.
I even have an idea, and John, we're gonna keep you on, but I think our next guest is somebody you should be hitting up to run
we
Shadow
played,
West.
We played in Mr. Zeb Cook's Thursday night game together, I think, and it was pretty much a blast. So she carried a lot of the action as the captain, and it was a pretty hilarious game, if I recall. It was I was shocked I lived. I think I was one of the only characters to actually live the whole night through. But yeah, so, I'm totally game for that.
So we're going to welcome what I like to call GM extraordinaire Michele Doolan to the program. And Michele, I didn't realize you and John had met before, but apparently you have.
Yeah, I mean, alcohol might have been involved somehow that night, but
it's possible. I was actually pretty okay.
This is a PG program. I just need to remind everybody of that.
No.
Oh no, it just no holds barred gamer as it is, and so I just I'm not afraid of making a butthead of myself in public. So
there may have been alcohol to enrich your role playing experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Michele, welcome to Friday Night Live here with the Page Gang, let's talk a little bit about you're out in Dane County near Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And
yes.
You are a Page 1 and a Page 2 alum.
Yep.
And we thank you for coming out in Page 1, braving the winter weather out here on the East Coast, but of course living in Wisconsin, I mean that's
I'm
unfamiliar
with.
Yeah, I don't think she's intimidated by.
I don't think she's intimidated by you, right? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about right before the stream started, we were all kind of chatting a little bit. You are now in Dane County, Wisconsin. Is the county commissioner your title?
Supervisor, but
county supervisor.
Similar,
okay.
Yeah.
Similar. Okay. So your county, and that's a fully elected position out in Wisconsin there. And we were talking that Ron is a former council person in what was it, Ron? Where?
Summers Point, New Jersey.
Summers Point, New Jersey, right? And I'm also an elected official where I live here in West Reading, Pennsylvania. So we've got 3 either current or former elected officials here on the stream, folks. I don't know. It's either, I guess, like role-playing folks. We're either like IT geeks or like detail-oriented folks that like to pull apart things, and maybe that's why we've kind of. Some of us have focused more on that side of things because, man, do I like that stuff. But nonetheless, let's hear a little bit about Michele and how about Michele's role-playing game history, where you got into it, what that was all about, and how that has presented itself in your current day situation.
Well, I have to admit, like, as far as role-playing games, I can't remember who I was talking to about this. I believe actually it was Ernie Gygax, because he asked me about this, a couple of years ago. And it was my single act of rebellion in high school. I got into, because D&D was taboo, satanic panic. I grew up in a very ultra-religious household.
You don't look old enough to have experienced the satanic panic.
I was thinking.
Okay, this DM is a grandma, so
wow,
straight up legit.
All right, yep. You stay in better shape than I do.
I'm the same. I was born. I celebrated my 50th birthday at the 50th anniversary of D&D at GaryCon. So that's 1974.
Wow.
D&D was born in 1974, and so was I. Coincidence? Who knows? But it was kind of an act of rebellion. I liked a boy in high school because I was super nerdy too. Like I liked comic books and I liked Lord of the Rings, and I was in theater and in drama, but horribly unpopular. And so the idea of getting together with people that were all like, we got to like play act, be in a choose your own adventure. Here I thought I was going to cast some spells and go to hell in one weekend, but I had to like sneak books and I had to hide these things. And I did it to impress a boy. And that's where it went from there. I started the first time it was AD&D was my first foray, second edition AD&D. And I went from there and I've been playing ever since. And
that shows you have good taste that you started with second edition AD&D, which is, my D&D edition of choice there.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I have a confession to make. I actually only played a little bit of second edition D&D before I got hired at TSR and then had to write for it. I played a lot. I played a lot of I played a lot of basic D&D and D&D before it had anything before it, and then a bunch of first edition AD&D. But by the time second edition came around, I was playing a whole bunch of other games, and then I was working in the industry on West End games and everything. And then when I got hired at TSR, they're like, oh, how familiar are you with all the second edition stuff? It's not going to be a problem, right? I'm like, oh, no, it's not going to be a problem at all. I'm like, okay, who's running a game? Because I got to jump in. I'd played like, a half dozen sessions probably before I became the lead designer on the Birthright group. So it was very funny. Worked out,
Mm-hmm. And at first, it was kind of like this hidden guilty secret, right? That I did these things. And somewhere around my 30s, I got, like you get comfortable in your own skin. And when I hadn't been to a convention in forever. I mean, I used to go to Gen Con in not the early days, but when it was in Milwaukee. And the guys would take me as party bait, basically. So I would get us invited into the artist party because it was like, oh, hi. But I legit was a gamer, so when it was Gamehole Con was the first like actual dedicated to games themselves convention I went to. And the thing I liked about it was I didn't feel like a female gamer. I just felt like a gamer. I was treated like a gamer. And
as opposed to,
well, before it was like I was somebody's side candy or whatever. I was an accessory to my first husband. And
your second husband just noted in the chat that you're an accessory in the second marriage too. Tom, that's shameful.
Okay, well, yes, but he's my arm candy, I'm his. So we gaming actually helped me meet Tom too. So, so really, I started just embracing it, that thing about me, and there's so much of every aspect of my life that's kind of intertwined with gaming. And I think I run my position on the Dane County Board of Supervisors. I'm the chair of the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee, which was the first standing committee Wisconsin had at the county level. And it's a quasi-judiciary role, and it has its own set of rules apart from any other standing committee. And people noticed that I'm comfortable doing that. And I said, if you can run a tabletop role-playing game with a bunch of people who aren't used to talking to women or used to talking over each other, and you can get everybody comfortable and everybody can have a good time, and you can moderate it, then you can run a committee. You just have to find your voice. So I think I owe a lot of being more comfortable with who I am, with the fact that I game, because I first had to kind of fight for my position as my own person. And then after that, it was, I'm just going to be who I am. And, I don't look back. And the gaming community themselves is so great because there are a few people here and there, but that's in every aspect of life. But the one thing I love about gamers is we support each other, and we actually, we connect at a visceral level sometimes about things. And funny thing is, when I was at Page this last time, we arrived from the airport in a snowstorm. My ride was kind of perilous, and our driver Scott picked up me and Frank Menser. And it was a very long drive because, it was just really slippery snow. And he was so, at the end, we got there late, and he was so apologetic. And when I got out of the car, I just said, "You got us here alive." And that is the single most important thing. And I gave him a hug, and I didn't realize, and I'm very aware that I'm an extrovert in a sea of non-extroverts. And I'm normally very guarded about that, but I could just tell, and I hugged him, and he later confessed to me, he's like, "I'm not really normally like that, but you knew I needed one." So I just feel like, you connect with people on a real level, and I don't like to judge people for, like, it wasn't about getting there on time. It was getting there alive and safe. So,
well, to be honest, I bet he felt a little bit of the pressure from our end because we were concerned. I remember Phil and Ron and I and a few other people kind of like, where's Michele? Where's Frank? We know we sent a volunteer to pick them up. Where are they? We're not hearing from them. So we were actually kind of worried because we knew the weather wasn't that great. And I can remember a few conversations of like, have you seen them? Have you seen them? No. So, but we were glad you made it.
Yeah, it was a rough ride. I mean, I tried not to pay attention to the roads and just let him drive. Because
our volunteers do a wonderful job. It's great. We're actually having a chat with a bunch of volunteers tomorrow, which is going to be nice.
We are. Hey, Jen, I know you're always loaded up with questions for our guests because Jen's the only one that actually prepares for the show before the show. Jen, what do you have for John and or Michele?
Okay, well, my first comment is I couldn't agree more with what Michele said about gaming helping you find your voice, because I am a little bit of an introvert, but playing Dungeons and Dragons and other TTRPGs has definitely helped me find my voice and improved every aspect of my life, from, I don't know, like, presentation skills to group management, and it's just amazing. My question for both of you is, what are you most looking forward to this year at Page? Is there anything in particular that you want to do?
Oh, okay. I have to go first.
Oh.
Well,
I'm not shy. I just got to let you go first. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I've kind of broken down some of the aspects of, like, because gaming has become almost like therapy in some places, teaching aspects in schools. I mean, the State of Wisconsin Historical Society has a module now for helping teach Wisconsin history to high school and to kids. And I mean, it's official government sanctioned. Here it is, and actually played in the play test. And so I'm actually going to do a seminar on, the kind of like professional soft skills that you get. It's going to be called Rolling the Dice on Growth, and how tabletop role-playing games build professional skills for people, because I'm pretty passionate about that gaming, the things I've learned at the table and the things I've learned that help me do the DMing thing for total strangers and be completely comfortable with it, has really carried me through my career. And I've learned, I'm a lot better at advocating for myself and for other people because of it. So I think that's a really important thing. And if people can learn it earlier in their lives than I did, I want them to have that. So I'm hoping it doesn't suck and I get more than 2 people. But even if I had 1 person in my audience, I'm going to do it with gusto. So I just want to share that, like,
well,
Well, if I could make a prediction, I bet your audience is going to be jam-packed because it sounds very interesting. And as soon as I know what it is, I'd like to sign up.
Awesome.
We've actually been reviewing seminars. We talked about that one just the other day, which is cool. One of the things that we're really trying to do this year at Page, and I know that there are some people who we'll have to chat with and everything, but we're trying to make sure that the seminars that we do, the seminars and the panels and workshops and stuff like that, are targeted both by time and potential conflict. So we'll do everything we can to make sure that your seminar is not up against something that would appeal to the same people, or we're not going to schedule seminars against the auction, for example, things like that. So we'll do what we can. And if you think of stuff that you think will help, please email me, email Phil, we'll help out.
Sounds good.
Because we don't want any seminars with only 2 or 3 people. I've done that a lot. Through my career, I don't want that happening. Anybody.
Well, there's only so many people interested in tour, Ged.
So those seminars fill up. That's never a problem.
Oh. All right, Jen, what else do you have? I know you have other questions.
Oh, Ron hasn't answered.
I can answer.
Yeah,
I'll
I want to listen.
jump in and answer. So selfishly, one of the things I'm most looking forward to, if it happens this year, is getting Kelsey Dion to sign my limited edition Shadow Dark book, because she was already sick last year when I finally went to meet her and was like, "What do you mean she's not here?" I'd run into her several times throughout the convention, and I didn't want to bug her. But this year, I'm going to bug her. As soon as I see her, I'm diving in with that Shadow Dark book and saying, "Are you going to sign this?" In a very fan-like fashion.
Yep.
Well,
we brought ours too,
it
and
didn't happen.
And
I actually told my friends at the booth, I was like, "Oh, I got to hold the booth down for a half hour while I go stand in the line to sign the booth, but get the book signed." But I mean, obviously, I think the energy of Page was amazing, and I've talked to a lot of people. I've been at three conventions since, and I've talked to people who have been at Page at each of these conventions, and everybody's like, "Oh, just the excitement there, the energy, the focus on gaming, on the RPGs and tabletop gaming, and of course, getting some of this new stuff that I'm writing out there and running it for people. I'm really looking forward to that, and that's what I found the most exciting. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I like having the booth. I enjoyed a very successful time at Page from a business perspective, but what I really love is sitting down and running the games. So, and I hope to continue that.
That's great, because I'm interested in playing all your games.
And by the way, we will be running Trash XC and Journey's Deck at the booth again too. So even if we don't get into it, someone doesn't get into a game that's staged out on the floor, if you just come by the booth at almost any time, someone's going to run a game for you like that. That's no problem for us. So.
Yeah, I'd love to. I just want to encourage all our viewers, try his games. They are amazingly fun.
I really appreciate that.
John's been, as I mentioned earlier, I've known John for 3 decades, and he's been a top-level convention game runner for those 3 decades. I mean, his games are sought after. His Cthulhu games that he used to run, extremely sought after. It's incredibly happy he's able to kind of put a dream together and have his own company to publish some of the stuff that comes out in his mind. And some of what we do at Page, it has a lot. It has everything to do with the game masters who come out to run games. And I'm not just saying this because Michelle's a guest on our program today, but when the decision was made to run Page the first year, she was the first GM I reached out to and said, "Hey, want you to come to run games in Philadelphia. And she's like, Philadelphia, what? But I appreciate the leap of faith that many GMs and many actual convention attendees have taken over these first couple of years. For Michele, it's like, I want you to come from Wisconsin and run games at this first year convention in Philadelphia. And, John, as well as I do, and Ed and Phil, we go to a lot of conventions, and historically we've been to a lot of conventions, and they're not all created equally, unfortunately. And first year conventions are often, I'd like to say they're hit or miss. They're very often miss. And, so it takes a lot of faith to go to a first year convention. And I appreciated, running into you online and saying, hey, John, absolutely. Yeah. You sent me something.
Yeah, I was like, is that the same Ron? And I wrote, I'm
like, hey, we know each other from the quote old days, right? And with Michele, I can't say enough, how grateful I personally am that you came out to run games at the first page, and how grateful I am that you dragged your husband kicking and screaming to run games at the second page. So, it really means a lot to me personally, and it's important. It's important for the convention, and important for the type of atmosphere we're trying to create, which is a family type atmosphere. The best conventions are the ones that you're going to, and because not only are you looking forward to the great games, or looking forward to the vendors area, or an auction, or whatever's going on at that convention, but you're looking forward to seeing people you don't see often. And we somehow captured that in a bottle the first couple of years, and we're gonna keep that up moving forward.
I really appreciate the kind words, because honestly, I was kind of out of cons for about 15 years, and I decided, if I'm gonna run this company, I'm gonna put my own stuff out there, I got to get out face to face with people. Like, online's fine, but I really wanted to get back and get. That was kind of my litmus test: was, am I going to go back and reinvest in the community? And the only thing I'd been to before Page was PAX, to run stuff at PAX. And that was just so crazy. It was a very bad first impression back to running games after being out of it, but I still had fun. And I said, you know what? Then I saw Page. What's this Philadelphia Gaming Expo?
Hey,
and I was like, is that Ron? Is that Ron guy? So yeah, worked out great.
Hey, I have to jump in here, since Michele, since Ron has just buttered you up, I have got to I've got to hit you with the same question I buttonholed John on. It's like, we know you've got that cool seminar. Have you been submitting any other events yet?
Oh yeah.
Real quick before you answer that, I want to remind everybody that this is a PG program. There is no buttonholing on this program.
Do you not know what that is? That's when you go up to somebody and you're like,
There's
hey.
No. Don't. PG
Am I going to have to look that up on Urban
go ahead,
Dictionary?
Michele.
I'm not sure what that means. So
Okay.
Yes, actually, I will run a 5th edition D&D adventure and a Dragon Age tabletop RPG adventure as well. And loosely under, I do my own homebrew adventures. I took the first couple experiences at conventions and kind of broke it down into what I like to do at the table. And also, I kind of developed my own style of adventure. And I also took, from sitting at Frank Menser's table, the first time I went and saw him at a table, and I was like, holy cow. And he chuckles when I say this. He was backlit by like sunshine and a window, and he had this white hair, and I'm sitting there going, God? No, but not really. But it was just so I sat at his table and I sat at Ernie's table and I sat at. I mean, I've been killed by Jim Ward about 4 or 5 times, and I got better. And Tim Kask and some of these people that started it all, and they weren't all about like measuring things out, and they weren't all about the technical pieces, and just I think Frank had said it best. He says, just to define what role playing is here, table talk is role playing, metagaming is role playing, doing it in character is role playing. Understand this is what we're going to do, and I kind of went with it. But then I wanted to attract the type of people that weren't going to be disappointed that I wasn't super technical and I wasn't this. It's very story driven, but I want everybody to have fun. And so I went with beer and pretzels because, this is what we're doing. I've been really actually fortunate to get I have the best players that come to my table. And there's been a couple conventions where we're the loudest laughers in the room. And, soon, here in Wisconsin, my games sell out. And it's been really, really awesome and flattering. And it's thank you, Jeff. God. So when Ron reached out to me, I was like, why me? He ran into me and I met him in DC. I was out there for the National Counties Association convention a couple years ago, my first trip to Washington, DC. And here's this guy I've never met, and I'm going to go and talk to him and have dinner. And I'm like, hopefully he won't kill me. And, but, so we went and had dinner and we talked, and he's like, so I'm going to run this convention and you want to come out? And I'm like, and I'm still going, are you sure you mean me? And so that's where if you're going to have faith in me, I'm going to have faith in you, and we're just going to do this. And I, was so impressed with the atmosphere at Page on a level. It was just so awesome. And I had some of the most incredible experiences. And when I walked up to Frank Menser and he's like, oh, hi, Michele. He knows who I am. I have this strange imposter syndrome about myself. And Frank's like, you need to be better about putting yourself out there. And you need to be more important than you are, because you're going to be bringing in the next generation of gamers. You're going to be the next, elders of this, being a Gen Xer.
Well, speaking of that, though, I know John is going to be very busy with his own stuff and is going to be running a booth and everything. But I'm so happy to hear about all the stuff that you're going to be running. But do not be surprised if Ron or Phil or I reach out to you in the coming months to talk to you about something special we have planned for Page 3, because you're on a short list we have of some people we'd like to get involved. I can't say anything more about it right now. It's still in development, but
awesome.
Anyway, just don't be surprised when we talk to you about it.
All right.
Yeah. Just quick too. When Michele and I met up in DC and I convinced her to run games at Page. Little shout out to our vendor and our friends from Games and Stuff, because we took a trip up to Games and Stuff in Glen Burnie, Maryland, so she could check out what the local gaming scene looked like.
I feel like the game stores out there, it was like, a candy shop. It was crazy. Weird to be the birthplace of D&D, and some of the game stores here were really small for the longest time. Now they're starting to get bigger because there's so much to it. But
just to all the games Michele said there, it's just funny. He's going back to Zeb's game. I was afraid it was going to be like this old school, get out the ruler and oh no, your character can't move that many space, which is okay in some games, but one of the best moments of that game for me is when I asked him a question about one of the expert set spells, because I didn't know, and He told me, and then he looks at me 2 minutes later. He goes, I just made that up, right? And I started laughing. I'm like, that's great. I'm like, let's just go with it, And it was such a relief to see this guy who was one of the originators of the games in the genre just be like, just keep the game rolling.
So I'll give you guys a convention tip, which you probably already know, but everybody else can listen to this. If you ever get an opportunity, so playing with Zeb in one of his D&D games, his AD&D games, is great. However, what you want to look for are some of the weird games he writes for himself. For years at various conventions, he was running. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But it was like this planar incursion game where he basically took miniatures from like Napoleonic, riflemen to D&D party members to Godzilla and Mothra, and he threw them all on this same battlefield with rules that made it kind of work. And you just basically had this multiplanar mashup. And he's done other stuff. I mean, Zeb, obviously famously worked on second edition D&D, but he also did the Rocky and Bullwinkle game, which uses hand puppets. I mean, that was a published game, if you haven't seen it. Zeb, of course, is going to be a guest again this year or this coming year. But yeah, I love playing in his D&D games. I played in a campaign of his when we lived near each other and we worked together at Cinemax. But I always looked for his weird games, his made up ones, because he always does such a great job with those things. Hey, I don't want to take away from our guests too much, but there's a question that's working its way down the list of chat. It was from Scott Garibay. It says, Daggerheart releases this month. I would like to see it run at Page. Is that determined completely by the GMs who put that in their slot? Or is there a way for players to request games be available? I know the answer, but anybody else want to jump in?
Well, I'll jump in. I can tell you that there will be Daggerheart at Page. We just haven't announced it yet. We hadn't announced Zeb Cook as a guest yet either, but, Ed just jumped the gun on that and let everybody know he was coming.
Well, we were going to announce a guest this evening, so maybe that.
Well, sorry about that.
Oh, Ed, you're like you're Ed.
He's just excited.
So one thing about that, it is really up to the GMs what's going to be run. We will sometimes ask people and everything, and of course, Daggerheart, people are submitting everything. But the best way to get a game at Page is to run it yourself, or if you don't feel like you want to run it, you just want to play it. And I know there's sometimes games even I don't want to run, I want to play. Go onto our Discord channel, go onto our Facebook page, and bring that up. Post it as a question. Ask if somebody wants to run Daggerheart or whatever your favorite game is, because they will respond to that. And of course, if you don't get any responses, well, then maybe it is time for you to step up and DM.
There it is, right there. Said very well by our friend Troy Allman. Loose lips sink ships, said. Hold on. Ryan Morgan has some more insight on this topic. There's a one in every family who can't keep the lid on secrets.
I would have to say that Zeb coming to his third page in a row would probably have been the worst kept secret in the world.
Here you go. He's your Tom Holland. There you go. Oh boy,
Spider-Man.
All right, Jen. What else do you have in your bag of questions for our guests?
Let's see. We've talked about your experiences with the game and the cons. Do you have anything special on the horizon? Like, I know, John, you have your Kickstarter. What's next after that? And Michele, what do you have planned for the next number of months before Page?
Should we let John go first this time?
I'll go first this time.
Yeah.
I'll be working on the game once I'm doing a little bit of travel right after the semester ends in a couple of weeks, and then after that I'm buckling down and getting. I mean, the game, there's a lot that's already been written. It's in note form. I'm going to be doing some play testing online for. He's really Dan's one of our biggest Trash Picture fans, and I very much appreciate that. And I think after break, I'm really going to be buckling down, and I'm going to be both finishing off the Shadow West content and getting it ready to go to print publication, hopefully around by August, September. So hopefully by August or by October, it'll be rolling in. And some of you who've already looked at the Kickstarter, and a big thanks to everybody here, including Ron. I think Jen backed it. Did Jen back it? Okay. Yeah, Jen backed it, and everybody else who's on the feed who backed it. As you know, we have Crooked Tail Crafts, who are out of Rhode Island, who I met at TotalCon, who are doing some awesome handmade accessories for the game, like coasters with a revolver cylinder and special dice. And this is all done by hand in their studio. This is not mass-produced stuff. So we're looking forward to that. So getting all that together will be kind of the big task before the fall. And I want to start running some online sessions of it. So I'll be posting that probably to the Kickstarter page and to my own social media. So if people want to jump in on some early play tests and early runs of it, I'd like to start getting my Call of Cthulhu environment, my Old West Call of Cthulhu, Pinos Altos, New Mexico, the setting I've run that in for several years, because that'd be kind of in line with what I'm working on for Shadow West. But that's probably going to be the big plan for the immediate future. Then after that, there might be a special Trash Sexy supplement coming out around Halloween. We didn't get to it this year, but we talked about it last year, so that could be really fun. And that'll be very, compared to Shadow West, that'll be very quick, right? I think the raccoons are very low maintenance in that regard.
All right. Looks like we've got a really interesting question in chat here from Ed Lopez. And I think we could chew on this for a little bit because I think a lot of us have some experience with this. Ed asks, I'm considering running a game at Page that would be my first con game. What tips do you have for running con games versus running a home game? That is a weighty topic. And everyone I'm sure here has extremely fervent views about this topic, but I'll just give my 10-second thoughts here real quick. They are definitely different things. A con game versus a home game. So that's the first thing you need to do is realize that they're different animals. Run something that either you know really well and that you want to run. Or run something that you haven't run for the first time, but make sure you do your homework, but don't be afraid to challenge yourself and be very open to all sorts of different types of play styles. And it is a bit of putting yourself more out there than you normally would with your home group because it is strangers to a large degree. But super fun, super duper fun. I love running con games. I get the butterflies every time I sit down and the people walk up to the table and they're, oh, you're going to be our GM? Yes, I am. Hopefully have a good time together. But it's really, really, really a fun time. And I would encourage you very much to not only consider doing it, but actually submit a game and give it a shot. Anybody have any other thoughts?
I've got kind of the boring one, and especially since people are talking about time slots in chat. I'm gonna focus on if you're running a tabletop RPG slot, because I think that's what most of us are talking about right now. Depending on the length of your slot and your game and everything, I think yes, 4 hours tends to be kind of an industry standard, but you can run a 2 hour, 3 hour, 6 hour, or whatever. But I would say hack off at least 15 minutes for startup. And if the con doesn't already do this, hack off 15 minutes for breakdown, because if your game starts at noon and ends at 4, you want to make sure you're cleaned up by 3:45, because there's another game master looking over your shoulder, hoping that he can set up all of his stuff or her stuff, so do that. And another thing for time management, recognize that things are probably going to go a little bit slower but they might not. So what I tend to do is I tend to plan midstream throwaway activities. So like I always have my start very well planned, and I have my end very well planned. But then in the middle, I try and make sure that there are places where I can pull stuff out that the players won't notice, because what you don't want to do is you're running into like, oh, it's 3:30. My game's supposed to end at 3:45 and we haven't even gotten to the final room. I don't want to sit there and be like, well, you guys did really well, but you never got to fight the dragon. So here's what would have happened. And that your game just peters out. But if I sit there and say, okay, well, I got the start where we're in the Hobbit hole and the dwarves are trying to convince everybody to go and fight. And then we got all this stuff with spiders, and we got this stuff in the mountains, and we got all this other stuff. And if I sit there and I look, I'm halfway through the adventure and we've barely gotten out of the Shire, then I can cut some of that middle stuff and get us right to the dragon, because that's where everybody wants to go. So you work out your thing almost like a little flow chart with some different branches. So that's my thing is, make sure you have a good eye on the clock and you can do self-time management.
Yeah, I'll throw a few things out there when you're running a game at a convention, as opposed to your home game or your home campaign. One, nobody cares about all your homebrew stuff. Like, you don't have to bury your players with background information when they sit at the convention table. Okay, you need to make sure that the information you're communicating to them is relevant to what they're going to be doing and is moving the storyline along. Nobody cares who the king is if the king isn't relevant to the adventure. Nobody cares what the bordering countries are if it's not relevant to the adventure. Okay, and to steal a line from Phil, because Phil and I talk about gaming philosophy all the time. Phil's goal when it comes to, running a convention game, he wants people rolling dice within the first 10 minutes of the game. Is that correct, Phil?
Absolutely. Every time.
Yeah. So, I mean, let them, you could only have so much fluff at the beginning, but you have to start getting the characters and or the players on the road to what they're supposed to be doing, and get them, kind of sweep them off their feet with what's going on around them. If you leave too many choices of what they're going to do, you don't need that weird, awkward first meeting in the tavern. You know what I mean? Where everybody's feeling everybody out and who wants to be mysterious and sit in the corner. Move on from that and get to the plot and get moving, because you only have so much time. And the other thing would be, you got to play test your stuff before you get to a convention. You have to know, hey, is this going to fit into the time frame? Or, okay, we went over, let's take a look at what took place here and perhaps what we can pull out of this, whether that's one encounter that's not, real relevant or dangerous. But you play test with your friends, and for this, the individual asked the question, come on down and, come on down to my house, because I know you live local to me, and we'll run you through a play test of something that you want to test out and get that feedback. And, you'll do fine. You'll do fine. So, play testing is important. You have to be ready to roll.
Yep.
And if I might add one more thing, short descriptions on things. Like, you don't have to, all you have to do is to create like a picture in somebody else's mind about a character. It's not blue eyes, brown hair, whatever. But if I explain that the bartender behind the bar is this ham-fisted guy with a giant axe below the bar, and he smells a little bit like ham. You know what I mean? It gives you an idea of who that person is without, like, you don't care if he's, you want the players to just create the picture so that they get the mood and then move on. And also be good at running the table and don't let somebody run away with the game.
Yeah.
So it's you. Yeah. One of the biggest things, Troll Lords, Stephen Cheneau taught me how he can run a table full of 25 people like an expert, like it's 2. So you want to make sure you like just next, what are you doing? What are you doing? And if they're not ready, okay, we're going to pass by and keep going. And that way it shows everybody has a chance to like contribute, and it makes sure that nobody has, yeah. And then an adventure hook, start with a bar fight or something weird, something that lightens the mood or, introduces the players to each other without going, okay, so this person by this person. It's like, no, you all know each other. You've been adventuring for a while. Okay, ready, go. And
Right.
like those quick launches, and then be prepared for your players to zig when you zagged and go off the rails, and just go with it. It's all about fun and make it epic.
That absolutely ties in with my one comment was, remember your players are there to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it a cakewalk for them. Don't make it easy for them, but make it fun for them. And different groups will have different definitions of fun. Some people love the combat, the tactical, but also make sure your game is what you advertise. Because if you advertise mysterious, a mysterious adventure where you're going to be role playing and problem solving, and all they're doing is fighting the entire time, you might have some really bored players. The converse of that is true. If you advertise it as heavy action, big fight scenes and whatnot, and then the players are sitting around a table talking about their backstories for 2 hours and they're expected to, they're probably going to be really bored. So, I think you just have to define up front what your game's about and then deliver that to the players because they're going to sign up wanting that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question in chat for Michele. Since you'll be coming to Philadelphia for the third time for Paige, will you have Philadelphia Eagles Kelly green hair or midnight green hair at Paige this year?
Well, I mean, I could go with green hair, but see, I was born 40 minutes south of Lambeau Field. So I was baptized and, melted snow water from Titletown.
Will you bring cheese curds?
I definitely could, because I live 2 blocks from Car Valley Cheese.
Yeah, listen, cheese steak heads are much better than cheese heads. Let's be clear.
But did a cheese steak save somebody in
now.
a plane crash? Because there was a plane crash. Somebody had a cheese head and they put it on his head and he survived.
Oh.
I love cheese. There's nothing wrong with cheese.
Yeah, cheese.
We can agree
on that. Cheese is good.
And I have to admit, I was happy that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Really happy. So.
Yeah, I don't know if win actually characterizes that. It's more like a demolishing of the Chiefs. Hopefully, there's no Chiefs fans on the chat. Well, I'm sorry, folks, but if you're a KC fan, it wasn't your day.
We have both Missouri and Kansas well represented at Paige this year.
We have
from attendees. This is probably a good time to mention we're going to have a large map set up at registration.
Fun.
And when people come in, they'll be able to take a pin with the small colorful head on it, and they'll be able to stick it in where they came from to get to the convention, because we may hit 50 states this year. We're pretty well covered already. And just a little fun fact, we have at the point, the number of badges that are out the door so far this year, we weren't at that number until August 15th last year. We are already at that number this year in April. now May. So yeah,
Amazing.
registration's looking strong.
I want to ask John and Michele, again, obviously, we know you're coming to Page, but, especially Michele, you being out in Madison, you're going to be at some of the other conventions we all like.
Yeah, I live in Dane County. I mean, it's still actually a 40-minute drive to get to Gamehole Con, but that's my commute every day too, so that's not a big deal. So I'll do Gamehole Con. I do every year, and then Gary Con as well, because I don't know. I look forward to seeing so many people at those conventions. So
Me too. Yeah, Ron and Phil and I are going to be at Gamehole. Jen, John, either of you going to be there?
I had not planned on it. I don't have. I've been told by several people I should go. Quite a few people.
Mm-hmm.
I met Ingo a couple of years ago, and ran into him this year.
Yeah.
So she's coming out to Gamehole Con. A couple of people told me. I just have to assess if I can physically arrange the time to make it. But I would like to. But I know if not this year, next year, I do want to get to some of the bigger national cons. I did Gen Con and Origins years ago. I haven't been in quite a while. I would consider getting back to Origins. I'd like to get to Gary Con. I would really like to do that.
Good show.
Yeah, I would like to eventually get to all of those cons. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I'll look at it and see if I can do it. But it's got to all depend on whether I can get the time off.
Yeah.
I don't know where Ed was last year, but Phil and I went to dinner with Michele and her husband and their son last year at Gamehole Con.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was next door. Phil and Ron just coincidentally ended up having they were right next door to me on the floor, and we ended up at the same restaurant. Was that the time? Was that when we were at the
German restaurant?
German restaurant. Yeah, we were sitting basically back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with Zeb and
we went to wasn't the German restaurant we went to.
German?
It's a brewery.
It was a brewery.
Okay. The barbecue place.
No, it was a local. It was a local place.
Which one was it? It wasn't the Dane.
It was.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
There's a lot of breweries in the area.
I don't know.
I think to settle it this year, we're going to have to organize sort of like a Page alumni dinner or something if we had everybody's schedules can match up, at Gamehole, and we can invite Alex along because he comes he came to Page last year.
I'll speak for Alex. I think Alex is very busy at Gamehole Con, and I couldn't imagine if
he does. I couldn't go to high school together, and I never.
He always said his staff does all the work. So
listen, I couldn't imagine if another convention asked me to go to their dinner at Page. Like it would just be like, no, I'm too busy. I love you, but I'm too busy. But some of the other folks, we're always happy to see Michele and Tom, of course, and some of the other folks that are out there. So I see.
If you're going to be audience, if you're going to be at Gamehole, look us up. Phil is going to be at EggCon, I believe.
Ron will be at EggCon.
Oh, Ron will be at EggCon.
I'm a special guest at EggCon. Let's get that out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was leading up to that. Now you announced yourself as a special guest. That's not nearly as cool. But,
spoiler.
Let me ask you: is Zeb Cook going to be there? Can you want to make any announcements for Heidi?
I don't think he is actually. He's trying to build a house.
Oh, jeez.
You got to hear the stories about his house, but it seems to be coming along finally.
We'll turn it into a seminar at Page.
There you go.
Build a house. So there was a question that was asked about if we're planning on doing any projects in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Tom is being sassy. All right. So I've created a world that it came from, I forgot, it was one of the, it was Autumn Ravel after Gary Con, the first like online Gary Con that was going on. And a lot of my players, we started this adventure together, and we've had this ongoing game for like, years now, and I'm finally going to wrap it up, but I created this entire world around it and they helped shape it. And so, and Tom is the one that's more organized as far as like editing and publishing. So Tom and I are going to put out our own world and our own adventures. And
very exciting.
Yeah. Nice.
So we're trying to get our ducks in a row. And Frank is going to meet with us, Frank Menser, because he's got some advice on that. But so stay tuned. Yes, we're going to put ourselves out there because I feel like, this was ridiculously fun, and I want to kind of share it with other people. So.
Yeah.
So is there a possibility that we could see it at page 3?
I think that might be soon. Too soon. I mean, I have 2 jobs. Okay, so I have my full-time day job, and then I have this, and I have a 16-year-old, and and I'm gloriously disorganized personally. So Tom's one that has to keep me on track. So I'm hoping to get some things together, get a framework together with Tom, and we'll see. Maybe we could, launch a Kickstarter at one of the pages.
Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to it. And, it's interesting we're talking about this because we're going to have an adventure, a convention-specific adventure published at Page this year, who some folks who are on this call have actually played at conventions, the Tomb of the Forgotten Moor King, and we're going to give a shout out to Chet Mitten because he's taken on some artistic tasks for that adventure. We're really excited about that. I think now might be a good time, Phil. We've had so many people on tonight. I think we should do a round of giveaways.
Let's do 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with Frog God Games, and I'm going to pick out somebody at random. I'm scrolling through the chat, scrolling. And we've got Jeff McKay. Jeff McKay is going to receive a $25 credit to the Frog God Games store. And then for Troll Lord Games, we're going to have Anthony Simeone is going to win a $25 credit to Troll Lord Games.
Nice.
So we still have two more to give away. So yep. And look, one of our players from Tomb of the Forgotten Moor King, Ed Lopez. He played at EcclesiaCon. He had a good time. I think he was one of the 2 people that actually survived, which was fun. It was a party of 4 or party of 5, I think, and only 2 survived. And I'm not going to give away too much from it, but really excited to get that done. And when we talk about that kind of, I mentioned about play testing, I play tested that module adventure a few times to make sure the time was right. For a 4-hour time slot, and it actually comes in less than 4 hours, which is great. Yeah, Ed did survive. He was one of the survivors. But there were many that weren't as lucky. Okay, so
just
go ahead.
Real quick reminder to Anthony and to Jeff McKay. Please email me your preferred email addresses at phil@phillygamingexpo.com so that I can pass that on to Chuck Cumbo over at Troll Lord and Jen over at Frog God Games to get your gift certificates.
Ron, you want to drop that in the chat so they can copy and paste it?
Yeah, sure. We'll do. Well, you know what? I don't want to get 70 people emailing Phil saying they want one of the. Let's. We'll figure that out. But I think Jen from Frog God really deserves a shout out. And while we're on the subject of Frog God, they have an interesting event that they've submitted in collaboration with one of our staffers, Joe Pizzaruzzo. They are going to run a day-long Teagle Manor event, like the old Judges Guild Teagle Manor, with the help of Frog God. And my understanding is that there's going to be a 28 millimeter map of Teagle Manor involved with that game. So that sounds like that's going to be a lot of fun. Zach Glazer's going to be involved in that from Frog God and Joe, and it sounds like it's going to be awesome.
Yes, indeed. That will be a very and I got to say, folks, not like we've not let you in on all of the very interesting little tidbits that we are cooking up here for Paige, but this Teagle Manor game is just one of the interesting things that will be. I like to use the term signature event, if you will, at the convention. We're going to have, I would say, a number of those for you to choose from and participate in, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to as they are coming together and we are ironing out the details. Please look for those. So, but yeah, I do have to mention Dan. I put the specific T-shirt on. This is my Inhumanoids T-shirt. If anybody knows the '80s cartoon, Dan Shea gave me a shout out. This is one of my favorite T-shirts. I usually wear it at cons, and every once in a while I'll get someone that knows the reference, and usually it's someone that loved the cartoon as much as I did as a kid. It was my absolute favorite, and Mike Merles. I had a conversation with Mike Merles 2 years ago at GaryCon, where I said, "This is a Hasbro property. Like, why hasn't this been made into an RPG?" You don't have to ask anybody for the IP. Hasbro owns it, and he told me, he said, "What if I told you that I already looked into it, and there's some kind of weird legal."
It is not that simple. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, but it would make the greatest RPG ever. Mm-hmm. So that is my dream of dreams, of being able to play the Inhumanoids RPG at some point in my life. Sorry, I digress. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Just like we do every time when we get together here, we want to remind folks that are out there. We mentioned a few of the outlets that you can stay abreast of what's going on here with Paige: Facebook, Discord, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, PhillyGamingExpo.com, and of course here on YouTube. Just to give you a couple of YouTube numbers, last week at this time we were at 178 subscribers. We are now at 222. So we are growing the YouTube family. Ron, what are we currently at here with streaming watchers, attendees? How many people are we up to?
Well, we have 25 contiguous watchers now, 20 on YouTube, 5 on Facebook. The high tonight was 31 online watching us, and we've been consistently over 25 tonight throughout the entire program. In fact, when we went live, we were already up to like 15 people, which I thought was great. So we appreciate the support. One of the best ways to support us, if you look down there on the screen, is to subscribe. We're going to be adding more content, more pre-recorded content to go along with Friday Night Live. And soon, in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be launching a program on Tuesday nights with our own Becca Swesney. That's going to be not completely focused on the board gaming that takes place at Page, but it will be more of a focus on the board game library and things we've added to the library and different Kickstarters that we're involved with related to board games. And of course, Becca is. We were going to launch this in a couple of weeks, but she had a health setback that landed her in the hospital, and now they're out of the hospital, thankfully. But it's going to move things back a little bit, and it's also going to move back some of the pre-recorded content because she handles most of that for us.
Indeed. So that'll be exciting, folks. So you're going to be, if you have your notification bells there on YouTube, you can be notified when that goes live on Tuesdays. Of course, you want to not only subscribe, you want to set up that notification bell. So if you forget that Friday Night Live is coming your way because you are doing something else, you're out with folks, you're out with your friends, you're socializing, and you get that notification, you say, I have to go home because I have to watch Friday Night Live to see what's happening with Paige. So good
Although
night,
you
everybody.
can always watch it on our channel, which is good.
You can.
Right. We like having live ones because that way we get the questions, we get to do that. One thing I would suggest too, we're making it, Phil and Ron have really reached out to people to make sure that we have exciting guests every week. We're going to try and do that. We're going to try and announce the guests early enough. Again, use those avenues that Phil brought up, and preload some questions. Prep us with things you'd like us to talk about. The question about the length of a slot came up. Post those things on our various channels, and we'll be prepared to answer various things as we go.
That's right. Yes.
And if you watch, later when we're not live anymore, if you're getting value out of the content, please give us a like and a comment, because that goes a long way to help us support the channel.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right.
Well,
let's see.
Almost 11 p.m. Is there something else we wanted to cover before we sign off for the evening?
Ed's always so quick to want to end the show.
Hey, I recognize our guests' time is valuable.
Yes.
At any meeting, the motion to adjourn is always the most popular one,
Yeah, everyone is rushing to second that motion. Yes.
We can preview next week's show if you like.
What about the special guests that you were going to announce before the beans were spilled? Was there another?
Yeah.
Well, it's Zeb Cook now. He's
okay. So now we'll leave it at Zeb for this week. Okay.
We're just going to leave it at Zeb Cook.
No, I'll have to watch next week to find out who the.
Yeah,
we have the other two giveaways to do also.
Right, we do. Yeah.
Well, let's wait just a few short moments. I did want to mention some of the other speaking of special guests. I wanted to mention the special guests that we had announced on Facebook earlier this past week. If you missed it, we had announced Eileen Reynolds is going to be joining us again. If you don't know Eileen, Eileen is known for being the inspiration for Alina the Cleric from the 1983 Red Box Basic Set, written by Frank Menser. She'll be a returning guest for Page 2. So make sure you say hi to Eileen. Also, we mentioned Chris O'Neill from Ninth Level Games will be joining us. He's the co-founder and designer, known for Kobolds Ate My Baby, a fantasy comedy RPG, and is also based in Philadelphia. Luke Hart from the DM's Lair out in Michigan. If you know his website and his YouTube channel, Luke is a great content creator. He also produces Layer Magazine, has written Layers and Legends, which is a 5e supplement, and The Secret of Game Mastery. He'll be joining us for the first time. And we've got Bob World Builder. It's also a YouTube content creator. He was at page 2. He'll be joining us again for page 3. And as that means he'll be a return guest. So if you missed those folks in our announcements, now you know that they're going to be joining us, as well as, I guess, Zeb Cook.
Yeah. So next week's program, you see, we're going to have 2 guests on next week. We're going to have Scott Frega from Arcania's workshop, and Scott has been a vendor at Page the first 2 years, but he makes all sorts of things, dice trays and custom game tables, and he's going to be talking about a special sponsorship that he's going to be doing with Page moving forward, which is going to be great. I'm not going to get too much into the details about it, but I'm excited to hear how far along he is on that. And we're going to have our good friend, the Geek Preacher, with us next week. Derek White will be on. So that is going to be a very fun show with Derek. If you haven't heard, Derek damaged Phil E. Cheesesteak at EcclesiaCon, and Phil has had to go to the healer to get repaired. But since it's Derek, we will forgive him. He broke Phil's tongue by accident.
Of all the body parts for one to break, breaking your tongue seems like a hard thing to do. So Derek must have worked really hard at breaking Phil's tongue.
It was really terrible. There were a few things that happened at EcclesiaCon. His tongue was broken. Organizer Wes Allen tried to embezzle the most valuable auction item on the auction block there, which was a dozen free-range farm fresh eggs from my farm. They were found in his office instead of at the auction block. Yeah. It sounds like EcclesiaCon needs to write an adventure, a mystery adventure about a whodunit, right? Who broke Phil's tongue? Who stole the eggs? Who took a nap under the table?
I suspect maybe a trivia event someday about these things.
The Nerdy Knowledge Trivia Contest at Page this year, there will be Page-specific trivia contests, trivia questions. And yes, I did fall asleep under a table at EcclesiaCon because I was going a mile a minute and jet lagged because I was in Hawaii, the 2 days before. But I was under there a while before anybody realized where I was.
Didn't you say you rolled out?
And Joe was cons in 1992, where everybody fell asleep under the table. It was just the way it was.
It's old school right there. The tablecloth was there. I slid right under there, and nobody knew I was under there. And then I popped out, and I think I scared Joe Pizaruzzo when I popped out from under the table.
Yeah, Ron told me. I always think of that Seinfeld episode where what's the character who works for the Yankees?
George asleep.
George. Yeah,
his nap space under the table.
His nap space under the table. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Steinbrenner finds him the one day. Yeah. So
that's funny.
Joe's in the chat says, "I almost stepped on you."
What happened? I tripped over Ron.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first person. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that I had to run Clayorama for a bunch of 8-year-olds. And
it's Clayorama.
If anybody knows me, they know that I'm not exactly the most warm and fuzzy guy when it comes to children. Like, children do not gravitate towards me. They usually run away and scream stranger danger when they see me. But the best part was one of the parents was there, and she was like dropping off her kids at the table, and I'm like, no way, you're sitting here and you're playing. I'm not. Like, there has to be one adult in this game. So
The chaperone.
yeah, she wasn't really into it until she got to kill her daughter. Then she was into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But nobody ate any Play-Doh.
That's unconfirmed.
Good thing.
That's
We
unconfirmed.
will not confirm or deny that.
I saw Wes had some green stuff on his face for a while, so I think it might have been him.
Green Play-Doh. Yum, yum.
Mm.
Ugh. No, thanks.
Don't eat the green.
Yeah.
Don't eat the brown.
Nope.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't eat any
or
color.
that. Yes. Yeah. None of it.
My wife was in childcare for many, many years, and one of the things she learned how to do was make Play-Doh. And you can make Play-Doh that's perfectly safe to eat. Doesn't mean you want to eat it, but
You can eat crayons too, but I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Just because you can do it doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
recommended.
What you should do is just eat food. Is what you should do. Is just keep it to those calories. But I will follow up with Ed's observation that it is 11 o'clock. I'll just say, if you have anyone in the chat, if you have a quick question that we have not yet addressed, maybe you'd like to type it in real quick, and maybe we can hop on that. But I do like the idea of folks submitting questions ahead of time. That's a really good idea, that maybe we can pick and choose the most interesting ones and sort of get that out to the special guests and to the rest of the page crew here, and we can dive into that a little bit more succinctly and topic focused. That's a really good idea. So if anyone's in the chat, you have a question now, type it in. If not, and a question formulates in your gray matter over the next 7 days, get it to us on the social medias, and I will make sure that it gets into the run sheet and everyone gets that ahead of time, and we'll be able to get to your question. So
I have two things why people are thinking about questions. One, we are looking for a community manager for our Discord page community. If you are interested in doing that, please let me know, because we recognize that we need somebody to help out on that front. So anybody who is comfortable with Discord, please reach out to me, and we'll get you set up. And we have 2 more gift cards. We have 2 more gift certificates we need to give away.
yes, let's finish off on a high note.
All right. So now, should we not allow Tom to win something because Michele is on the program?
Well, Jeff Mackey in chat says, I'd like to give my gift cert to Michele and Tom, he says.
Oh, okay. Look at that. You just got, he just totally blocked you. Okay. So you get nothing. There you go. I'm still scrolling. Let's go with Ed Lopez, since he had such a good question about the game convention, running games at a game convention. Let's give him the Frog God Games certificate. And then let's see. I'm still scrolling. Oh, what happened here? It's not going all the way back. Wow, the chat's been really active tonight. No, Ed. I'll explain to you why later. You know what? I'm still scrolling through here. There's Wes. He's out. He stole eggs. Geez, this is terrible. We're
well, we have too many gift cards. Obviously,
we got too many. We got too many. 4's too many. All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the.
Why don't you give it to the person who posts the best question next week for on our Facebook page?
Let's go with Christian Stenzel.
Okay.
So Christian Stenzel, he's our second winner. You have to contact Phil Wirt at phil@phillygamingexpo.com.
Yes. So hopefully Christian's still on the chat.
All right. Is there any? Seeing no questions, no new questions?
Yeah.
I guess we'll.
Oh yeah, Christian's on the chat. Yeah.
Jen, do you want to take us out tonight?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone for coming and joining us for the stream. And remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you can. And if you want to learn more about the Blind Bard, please check out my channel as well. And I will see everybody next week.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Have a good night.
Great seeing everyone. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.